Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. I work in a company that deals with wedding planning and interior designing. When I told my boss that I was about to get married, he asked me if I could let the company do a portfolio to promote some new theme designs that they were coming up with. We usually did the test by using a whole different budget, but using it on mine would save the company a lot of money. And in exchange, he offered me paid leave of 3 weeks. 3 weeks was no joke. And accepting the offer was just beneficial for me as I wouldn't have to worry about the whole planning headache. So I agreed, and the company planned everything. I wasn't really planning on having a big ceremony and only wanted close family and friends to present, but because the company was actually doing a design test in real time, some employees needed to be present. I was conflicted because a lot of my colleagues would surely call me out for not inviting them to something the company was paying for. So I ended up inviting 50 colleagues. On my wedding day, everyone was having fun, and I wasn't worried about anything other than just getting through my vows without messing up. Only family that we invited were our siblings and parents. No cousins or aunts and uncles were present, so the toasts were naturally personal and short. It was everyone's true words, just for us, and not to entertain guests. When it was time for my husband's family to speak up, his mom took the stage. I was a little surprised because I didn't know that she was going to speak. Now, mother in law and I never really had a bad relationship. We weren't buddies, but I thought there was some level of mutual respect. I knew that I wasn't her choice, and she's just being nice to me because I'm her son's choice. But I never imagined she'd end up embarrassing me in such a huge way. She talked about my husband's first girlfriend and said I must know her as she was my best friend. I couldn't believe she'd talk about something that sensitive at my wedding. I was incredibly embarrassed and wanted nothing more than the earth to swallow me up. I got through the ceremony somehow, but couldn't really forget how she did me dirty. So I wanted her to pay for it and planned a dinner to do exactly that. I invited both our families and told them it's a private dinner to celebrate our wedding, as we were joined by my colleagues in the actual ceremony. When everyone came over and were having dinner, I purposefully asked my brother-in-law how his job was going in hopes that someone would ask me about mine. And my brother-in-law did ask me when I'm planning to take some time off. So I told everyone that both my husband and I are taking more time off next month to go on our honeymoon. I said that we really wanted to go somewhere tropical, but the trip would be out of our budget, and that's why we were still thinking about where we should go. My mom asked me why am I short on funds when I didn't spend anything on my wedding as the company took care of most of the things. I told her how, because the company offered to pay, we chose an early date to marry as we didn't have to wait and save up. If we had to pay ourselves, we'd probably have saved up for another 8 or 9 months. That's when my dad said he'd be happy to give us money for the trip, but I refused. He had already paid for our house renovations when we were moving to a new place. I purposefully said that if mother-in-law had offered, I wouldn't have minded, but I can't make my parents spend more than they already have on the house. So my mother-in-law was on the spot as everyone was looking at her, and finally she asked father-in-law if they could buy us a vacation to Bali or some other place as our wedding gift. And my father-in-law had to say yes. I was happy to put her in the spotlight and rip her off after how she put me in the spotlight that day. My husband did try to deny mother-in-law's offer, but she said she didn't mind. The atmosphere was filled with mixed emotions. My husband was a little annoyed while mother-in-law refused to do anything else all night and kept sipping her drink. My parents were quite happy and were trying to keep the conversation going. The next day, my husband didn't come home after work and texted me saying he's going over to his parents' house because mother-in-law wanted to come home. I was a bit uneasy after seeing this text, but when he came home the next day, I felt a little better. I did notice a change in his behavior. And when I asked him why he's being strange, he said it's because of workload and nothing personal towards me. Of course, I believed him and even tried to cheer him up. Over the next few days, his mood didn't change much, and the only time we spent together was dinner time. He started going to bed early and leaving before I got up. Then, suddenly, after a few days, I received a mail with divorce papers in it. I was shaken because it hasn't even been a month since I got married, and now he's asking for a divorce? I called him immediately, but my calls went straight to voicemail. There was no way I could focus on work after that, so I took the rest of the day off and came straight home. I wanted for him to come back, and as soon as he entered, I got in his face. I asked him what it was all about, and all he could say was that it's for the best. But I didn't let him move without getting a proper explanation, and finally, he told me he made a mistake. He said he thought he knew me, but only after marrying me did he find out how manipulative I am, and now he feels like I manipulated him into leaving my best friend for me when they broke up. At first, I thought it must be a sick joke, but he was being serious. I was too angry to even look at his face. He didn't only call me a liar, but also insulted all my feelings and my wedding vows. So I went to our room, packed his bags, and told him to leave the house and stay with his mom, who's apparently responsible for his life decisions. My mind still hasn't fully grasped the situation, and I keep thinking this is all just a sick joke. And any day now, my husband would say so. Was what I did really make me an a-hole? Is ripping her off really such a bad thing when she embarrassed me in front of everyone I see on a daily basis? It's been a month and our divorce proceedings haven't moved on too much. I didn't sign the papers yet, and apparently my husband hasn't taken any other actions because any lawyer is yet to knock on my door. Also, I tried to call my husband a few times after kicking him out because I was really depressed at how my life turned out to be, and I was ready to beg him to forgive me and come back, but he didn't answer. And I'm really thankful he didn't because I was at a really low place, and it would have been a mistake to take him back. Now he's been calling me for the last few days, and I've blocked him. I don't know what he wants from me now, but there's no way I'm ready to hear anything from him. That was futile because he showed up at the house yesterday and said he just wants to talk. I tried to shut the door in his face, but he blocked me and said he's sorry about what he did and he wants to make it work. He said that he was stupid and was listening to a lot of what his mom was saying. He begged me to give him another chance, but I told him there's no going back after what happened. No way can I trust or respect him, and he wouldn't be able to escape his mom's influence, so I want nothing to do with him. After he left, I stayed up all night debating whether what I did was right or not. But I knew I deserved better than someone who's actually questioning my feelings and labeling them as fraudulent. Finally, I sent the signed papers and talked to the lawyer my sister linked me up with. Also, my mom found out about me getting divorced. I didn't want my parents to know because I knew they'd worry, and now they can't stop calling me every other day to check up on me. I finally gave in when my sister showed up at my house with a few sets of clothes because my mom practically harassed her until she promised to check up on me. This was the exact reason why I never told them about my life problems. Anyway, I asked my lawyer if an annulment was possible as it hasn't been enough time since we married, but he said it's not possible in our case. So we have to go through the whole divorce process, and at this point, I do think this wedding is costing me a lot. I'm single again, and it's really a bittersweet feeling. I thought a few months of dealing with divorce and courts and lawyers would have frustrated me enough that I'd start hating the sight of my husband. but I still feel sad every time something reminds me of him. At the same time, I'm glad this marriage ended early on and we didn't waste a decade or so of life before finding out how we're not really all that happy. So maybe it's a blessing. I don't know at this point. As for our divorce settlement, my husband let me keep the house as my parents paid for a lot of its renovation. He said he feels bad how things turned out and he wants nothing more than for us to keep what was ours. As we didn't have as many things that were considered joint assets, it was a fairly easy division. I was thinking that his mom might push him to ask for more, but either she decided to stay silent or he didn't listen to her. I could really see it in his face how sad he was about everything. But the fact remains that he was a mama's boy who couldn't decide for himself what he wants or loves. And if a guy is ending a marriage over something so petty, I can't respect him. ETA, I don't know what the story is behind you dating your husband, but I believe that mother-in-law had no right to bring it up at your wedding. But you're the a-hole for making her pay for some time, which isn't going to be cheap. But you're the a-hole for making her pay for something which isn't going to be cheap. I hate people who think everyone is financially like them and take money for granted. NTA, what you did wasn't that bad, and mother-in-law could have said no when you put her on the spot. But divorcing because mother-in-law didn't want to say she's cheap or broke makes your husband an a-hole, and you're better off without him. I'm 23 years old, female, an older brother, 26 male, recently married my high school bully, 24 female. I was friends with her from the ages of 10 to 16, and then when my mental health got bad, diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and I was no longer fun to be around, my friend group shunned and bullied me, including her. My brother and I are LC because we cannot get along, mainly because of her. When he invited me, he said he was extending an olive branch. Apparently, getting married had given him a new appreciation for family, and since I'm his only full sibling, we have a shit ton of half-siblings. He wanted to fix his relationship with me. During my brother's wedding planning process, whenever I attended an event like the cake tasting or rehearsal dinner, my brother's then fiancée and her friends, my old friends, would make fun of me. I have severe issues with self-esteem and anxiety, and they'd sit there and whisper about me. They'd criticize my hair, makeup, or clothing. I literally felt like I was back in high school. I still went to the wedding. Yes, I know, I'm an idiot. And I wore a dress that showed my forearms. I have scars on them from you know what. They're faded and healed, but some are prominent and raised. I covered most with makeup, and I just hoped that everyone there would be courteous and ignore them. I was wrong. I was sat at a big table with my family and my brother's in-laws and her friends. I noticed one of them pointing at my arms, and then my brother's mother-in-law was suddenly offering, practically forcing, me a shawl to wear. That was my final straw for the night. So I handed my little sister that I was babysitting to a cousin, and I left. I went home, cried, and then took a nap. I was only there as a guest, and I wasn't driving anyone home. So I thought no one would be inconvenienced by me leaving. I awoke to over 100 missed calls and texts from various family members demanding to know where I was. Turns out they had decided to take some family photos and no one knew where I had gone. These photos were unplanned. I tried to lie and said I felt like I was going to faint, so I left because I didn't want to ruin the wedding. But somehow my brother found out about his mother-in-law forcing me to wear a shawl, and he tried to kick her out. He then got into an argument with his wife, and he left the wedding for around 30 minutes, and our dad had to go and track him down. My dad said the wedding wasn't ruined because my brother eventually returned, and everyone still got on the dance floor and had fun, but a scene was definitely caused. I'm being blamed for this by my brother's wife, her family, and majority of my own family. According to them, I'm a massive a-hole for leaving without telling anyone, and I caused a disagreement between a newly married couple. AITA? Big NTA. You didn't cause a disagreement between newly married couple. Your former bully and her friend caused a disagreement by treating you like crap. They are blaming you because it's easier to blame you, the person they don't like, than blame their own ugly, hostile, bullying actions. NTA seems like your brother really should have chosen a nicer partner, and I'm sorry for the obvious issues this has caused you. Your family is mostly being unreasonable. A courtesy text to someone saying you were taking off would have been nice, but you're an adult and it's not your responsibility to let others track your movements. My family and I got into a road accident a few weeks ago. Everyone is fine, but I broke my leg in 2 places. The doctor gave me the okay to go back to school. I'm 17, female, am in a bunch of AP classes and have a lot of books I have to carry with me. It's hard going between my locker to class because it's hard to manage a heavy backpack with crutches and a bulky cast. Last Tuesday, one of my classes ran late. I was with my boyfriend Josh, who shares both classes with me. Josh is a heavy guy who prides himself on being unathletic because why need sports when you have video games? We're running up the next class. I can't keep up because crutches and heavy backpack make it freaking hard. I asked Josh if he could help me carry some of my books. He said he can't because he can't carry my books plus his. I end up late to class by 10 minutes when Josh was on time. Miss Sanchez, my teacher, is chastising me for being late, and I snapped. Well, if Josh wasn't so out of shape and would help me, I wouldn't be late. I got detention for talking back to the teacher, and my friends and classmates think I'm an a-hole for fat-shaming Josh. Josh says I'm unfair to him because I know he's out of shape and can't help me. I'm just sick of being let down by him all the time. AITA? Or should I try to be more understanding? We don't have any turtle patrol, so my teachers haven't been all that accommodating. My mom was pissed about the detention and has been hammering the principal and superintendent's ear. Until then, I'm learning to go remotely. She thinks the detention is BS. As for my ex, I dumped him a few hours ago. Then he blew up my phone to call me a bitch. Turns out, word got around to his parents. His parents are hardcore conservatives who think that guys have to help a lady no matter what. His dad confiscated his Xbox until further notice. I blocked his number. Good riddance. I'm just going to focus the rest of senior year getting back the use of my leg and getting out of here. Josh sucks, and I can't believe I dated that loser. Wow, the comments here. I stand by my choice. Screw Josh. Screw my school. I'm going to be graduating in 8 months and moving on to better things. He had it coming when his Xbox got confiscated. Maybe he'll learn to be a better boyfriend. Peace out. Frustrated broke leg has left the building. ESH. You shouldn't have fat-shamed your boyfriend. That was low. He should have helped you and given the teacher a heads up about the previous class having run late and you being on the way. Your teacher is the biggest a-hole because who TF gets angry at a student for being late while struggling with carrying books and using crutches at the same time? What the hell? You should go to the principal about that. That's horrible. NTA, because of the edit. I hate when people try and call girls bitches for dumping someone that they're not compatible with. You're not a bitch. You realize that this relationship wasn't for you and it wasn't doing anything for you either. Were you even attracted to this man? I think that what you said about your boyfriend was kind of weird and very disrespectful, but I feel like it definitely stemmed from lots and lots of built-up resentment of just him and never helping you ever when you desperately needed it. I mean, your leg was broken in 2 places and you were on crutches and he couldn't help you carry any books at all? That doesn't make any sense to me. I'm glad you dumped him. Go find someone that is willing to do stuff like that for you if that's what you're looking for. But try and stop being so resentful of your partners if they can't help. Just get with someone who can. ESH. If this is how you talk about him when he's not around, I shudder to think how you speak to him directly. There was no reason to fat shame him. From your post and comments, you clearly don't like your boyfriend. You should break up with him and save you both the misery. Josh sucks for not helping you carry your books. Do you have other friends who could have helped, or do you treat them poorly too? He could have at least let the teacher know you're running late from your last class and crutches. Ms. Sanchez sucks as a teacher for the detention unless you walked in late and created a disturbance instead of walking in and quietly going to your seat. Then she should address you for the interruption in the class. If not, she sucks for the way she handled the situation. I know walking with a cast and crutches sucks. However, it is not a pass to lash out at people and treat them poorly.